Therese, do you realize that we're going to have really real subscribers?
Do we have any now?
My mom's going to subscribe. I told her to promise me she wouldn't play it at 1.5 speed.
That's a great idea. I'll make my daughter subscribe. Welcome to Con La Familia.
Always learning together.
I'm Therese Shields.
And I'm Chelsea Edge.
Chelsea, what if we did a drawing with people who subscribed for the week?
Like an art drawing? Like I'll draw a picture?
I was thinking for a prize, maybe a book, like a good one.
For real? Can we do that? What are the logistics?
Each series, based on the topics, we can have a drawing with new subscribers to win a book that will support their learning from this podcast.
And I have some extra napkins in my desk that I will also donate each week.
And on that note, today's episode is on differentiation with the usage of tech.
As usual, we'll start with our interview with an expert, lead into some classroom stories, and end with our new shout-outs to success.
So let's get started with our expert. Chelsea, would you like to do the honors?
Certainly. Today we're here with Kelly Miksch,
Director of EdTech and Design.
So Kelly, how can we use technology to aid with differentiation?
Thank you, Chelsea. That's a great question because the technology world has really learned that they need to add additional pieces to their applications and to their tools that do meet the needs of all students. One of the big ones is those accessibility features. When we're differentiating activities and things, we still need to have accessibility features available for our students. So it may be where there's something that helps read to the students. The other piece is being able to change into different languages. There are many schools throughout the nation that have multi-language, and it's not just English and Spanish. There are other languages that are coming into the classrooms. So having those tools that will be able to translate and be able to be in their native language is also important. The other component is you may have students with visual issues and being able to put what we call like a color overlay over their screen. And it's not a physical thing, it's just turning on a tool that will change the color that meets the needs of that student. So that's one way, the technology world has started to embrace meeting the needs of different students. But when it comes to additional differentiation as a teacher, one of the great things is being able to have that blended learning or personalized learning available for students. Because with our technology tools, you can set up a choice board or stations or centers for your students to be able to navigate through to get into your content that you're looking at, seeing if they're understanding of what your topics are. But with that, you can have different levels. If one student needs to be challenged more, when they're in those stations, you're able to give a little bit more challenging work that really brings out that critical thinking. But then you may have that student who, again, needs those accessibility features, may work a little bit slower. And what's great, again, is you're able to work at their pace. You're able to start to meet the needs of each of your students through the integration of technology in either a blended learning environment or just with stations.
How would a teacher get started utilizing choice boards?
So one of the pieces is talk with your colleagues. I know that a lot of teachers, we're strapped for time. And what one teacher may be doing in their classroom, I might be able to take one of their ideas and embrace it into my classroom, tweak it a little bit, again, to meet the needs of my students. But one of the big things I tell teachers is network with each other. We all have to work smarter, not harder. But I also caution you from just going out to purchase something because it doesn't always meet the needs of each of your students. You're going to be the one who knows your students best. So building out that choice board, it doesn't have to be big. Think about playing tic-tac-toe. Make a tic-tac-toe board. Make the ones that you want that are most important for you. Those would be on a tic-tac-toe. It would be the middle choice. Everybody has to pick the middle one. So you have some guardrails that you can put on to having those choice boards, but you can have it as big as you want or as little as you want. It just depends on your time. And the biggest thing I can say, start off slow, reuse, bring things back, because spiraling your content is important, because it's great to bring back something that you taught 2 weeks ago just to continue to have that there. So don't put your choice board choices completely away. Bring them back out periodically. So again, it gives you a break from building them, but also allows those students to come back and remember that content.
I like the idea of putting things away, bringing them back, and spiraling them. That makes less work on you as an educator.
Front loading kind of the work on your end, and then you can benefit from it throughout the year.
Totally. I mean, that's the thing is, I'm not gonna fib anybody that, it can take a lot of time at first. But again, if you network with your colleagues, with other teachers within your districts, reaching out on, social media channels with other educators, everybody's out there to help each other. And so you don't have to do it all on your own. But again, I'm going to caution you from just going out to purchase, because when you purchase something, they don't know your students like you do. And so, and I actually have done stations for years with my students. And my last year in the classroom, I was the co-teach class. And so my stations would have looked totally different than either one of your classrooms, because I did have that range. And so when building them, it did take a lot of time at first, but once I started getting the groove going, every unit I got a little bit faster. And again, I didn't put them completely away. I brought them back in for that check, and they'd be like, wait a minute, isn't this a station we did a couple weeks ago? Yes, but I've tweaked it just enough that you need to give me some new content. And it was very beneficial, and my students excelled that year, both my special ed students and then my regular ed students. And I had a lot of gifted and talented, what we called it in the district I was in, that I really had to challenge them. So it was challenging for me, but it was great to see their growth and where they ended up at the end of the year.
You brought up a good point about you knowing your students best. It sounds like ultimately it's easier to make your own thing rather than buying it.
So
I might have bought some of them.
Well, and again, I'm not saying don't do it. You have to make sure that it meets your learning objectives and it really targets into what you're needing. And if it only fits one or two of your students, then is it really worth the purchase? Because now the rest of your class is going to either fly through it or they're going to struggle.
If you set it up and come up with a pattern, you can keep using it throughout the year. It's less work.
And building that pattern, next year, again, that first year is always going to be the hardest because you have to make it. Mm-hmm. And then each year after, yes, you have this bank of things you have, but each of those are going to need to be tweaked also. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie to you. They have to be tweaked because you have a new group of students. But you've got that foundation, that strong foundation. Mm-hmm. The other piece too is you learn what works and what doesn't work.
Yes, you do.
Because, oh, wait a minute, what was I thinking about putting in like a water area for the water cycle? It's like, no, we'll just do the coloring sheet or something. Again, you have to modify and tweak. And it may even be you release the new stations and after the first day, you're like, okay, that was a crash and burn. I'm not going to lie. There were times that I crashed and burned. And I had to step back and take a reflection and say, okay, that was really bad. How can I make it 100 times better? And sometimes it's just the smallest tweak of, oh, I didn't give them deep instructions. I didn't give them thorough instructions. So they did with what they thought. And that was on me. And then other times again, okay, now that's too easy. They're finishing it too quick. I need to challenge them. Mm-hmm. So again, that's where you bring in that differentiation. How do I change it just enough to bring in that critical thinking, that collaboration, and that communication that they have within their peers? So it's, again, teaching's not easy.
No,
it is not.
I would say too, if you're nervous about incorporating some new tech programs in your classroom, what I found worked for me is I would choose a student who had finished everything early and make them my guinea pig and say, hey, can you test these links out for me? I want to try something, 2 days from now, and I want to make sure it works. And usually that student loved doing that because they were like, oh, yeah.
I totally agree with that. I used to have tech leaders in my classroom, and it wasn't, I'll be perfectly honest. Everybody's like, oh, I have to get that smart kid. Mm-mm. No, I had all kids of all levels, and it could be, again, the application. It could be testing something for me. Mm-hmm. It's just giving them that opportunity to be a leader. The other thing is I would sit with a small group, and if we were going to use a new application, I would teach a small group of students what they were going to do and how to work the program. Then when we were in the stations, I wasn't going to be interrupted. They knew who to go to. I had purposefully positioned a student in each of the groups so that way there was a tech leader in the group, and they didn't have to come up and interrupt me while I was doing small group instruction. So it's empowering our students to be those global citizens and leaders in our classrooms too. The teacher doesn't have to be the one who knows everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's, I think, where facilitation comes in.
Indeed. Thank you, Kelly, for giving us so much to think about. I think you've provided us with some very helpful advice regarding differentiation and technology.
And now we've come to my favorite classroom story.
I'm really loving these. I love getting a glimpse into other people's classrooms. Here's one from Nikki Springer, a new teacher support specialist.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me. And I was listening to a story that was just shared, and it brought back a memory from a specific student that I had my first year of teaching as well. I remember we had what was called advisory class. It was prep, right? So we had the same students every single day during like our block normal schedule. So I remember coming into my advisory class. It was 7th grade. I was nervous, and their prep teacher from last year, they were told they would have them from 6th grade to 12th grade. And I was a new teacher. So I had one that just hated me because I was not that former teacher. And I mean, she was not afraid to express it in how she spoke to me, and she just gave me attitude all the time. And so I thought, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do to try to reach out to the student. And so I remember hearing, probably when I was in college, not only should you make those bad phone calls, but you should also make positive phone calls. And so I had the idea to just write notes, because another teacher said, oh, I just write notes. So I would write notes at the end of 9 weeks. I would pick one student from every single one of my classes, and I'd write a positive note home. So I'd send these positive note home. Usually they were to the ones that were, participating or kind, just like they were modeling those specific behaviors. And I remember it was Christmas time, and I thought this one student that hated me, she was so smart, and I just wanted to acknowledge her. I would try to praise her, and she was just wouldn't accept it. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to write a note home to her, her mom, and let her know that she's doing very well in my class. And I sent it home with her. And over the holidays, I got a phone call, or an email, not a phone call, but an email. And it was from her mom. And she was just writing how much that meant to her daughter, that I acknowledged her. And when we came back from Christmas break, I mean, what a difference it made, because she appreciated that I, regardless of how she was treating me, I, tried to see that she was working hard. She was a critical thinker. She was so vocal, and that relationship with that specific student I still have today. I still talk to her. She's at law school. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. Well, because, you know, that school we have them from 6th through 12th grade. So, and she would always bring it up throughout the years. Remember when I used to hate you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. You would give me like these daggers. But I kept that tradition up throughout the years, and I would always like make sure that I didn't just focus on sending notes home to those students that were doing really well, but maybe the other ones that didn't, just needed that pick me up, I guess, from somebody else. And so, yeah, so I wanted to share that because I think that was a good practice that I implemented. It stayed with me throughout my whole teaching career. I never stopped doing that because of that one student that had just like changed the way she felt about me. And yeah, so I thought I would share that today.
Aww.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I like that teaching practice of just writing a note and then letting the student know. Because sometimes they get really embarrassed when you say it out loud in front of other kids. But them having that and holding on to that, and they can refer back to that over and over again.
Yeah, and I see it now even when I'm in the classroom now in my role. You know, I write a little note to the teacher of like what they're doing well, or little things to pick them up. You know, it's a nice little, like you said, a little reminder for them. It's almost like, you know, when you show gratitude for something, it's it helps you focus on that instead of everything that's bad.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's hard for me to choose my favorite segments, but our next one is way up there for me. It's Shoutouts to Success. First off, I have one for our producer, Frank. Frank, you're a rock star. Thanks for all your help.
Shout out to Colleen Quirk for being open to trying new EdTech tools.
Also EdTech related, shout out to teachers at Franklin for being open to trying new things with their iPads.
Awesome. Keep the shout outs coming in. You can email them to us directly at coldlafamilia@saisd.net. Hey Chelsea, we've come to the end of another episode.
This is to my mom. Mom, I'm going to test if you're still listening. The secret word is green. I'm going to ask you what the secret word is next time I see you. For our other listeners, please keep sending us your questions, classroom stories, and shoutouts to success. That email again is conlafamilia@saisd.net.
Also, don't forget, new teachers, join us for our mid-year NTO on February 3rd and our next 50/50 day on February 9th. We hope to see you there.
This podcast is supported by the TSL Initiative and teachers like you who are also practically perfect in every way and who also remember the secret word is green.
What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.